Hey, good afternoon, folks. How is everyone doing today? Hope you're doing okay. Doing alright. Had better days, had worse. I have to get rid of my soap. Oh, it's drying my skin out, making me itchy. Neither here nor there. I thought today, since we're in it's Thursday, so Tuesday, day 9, day 10, day infinity. I thought we'd do a little mental exercise. Why not? Doesn't look like the election's going to shake out anytime soon, and if it does, it's a really good chance it's going to be contested. This is for the tinfoil hat people. So normal people, you can check out right now. Just done. I don't need to watch this because we're going to go to tinfoil hat land. Let's start with the basic premise. And this is one that I've been saying for years, and people still call me crazy, even though every year it looks more and more like it's about dead straight on. The United States is a problem. The United States is the stump in the middle of the field that keeps the planet from forming a single global hegemonic government. It is. Now, I'm not sitting here and I'm going to say the European Union experiment was a farce, but it was. That being said, is the UK ever going to actually execute Brexit and get the hell out of there? No. The goal is to create a one-world government. It's been around since at least 100 years ago with, I want to say it was Wilson and FDR's cousin wife, what the hell was her name? Eleanor. They were big one-world people. Well, it sounds like a good idea. When we take a look at something like the United Nations, where they have people sitting on the Human Rights Council that are some of the worst abusers of human rights on the planet, you have to wonder if it's really that good an idea. And I'll tell you right now, small government guy, I believe government needs to be shrunk down to the absolute smallest size possible, because bureaucracy is not beneficial to anyone except bureaucrats. Is what it is. So I was online with somebody last night. We're going back and forth. We're bullshitting. And he said, well, you need to put that up. So, here we go. The whole point of this election was not to decide the president. It was not to unseat Trump. The whole point of the last 4 years, 8 years, 12 years, go back 25 years if you want, was to divide the country, to split the union. There are people who will go out there, and if you look it up, you'll see the 16-year plan. And Hillary's 2 terms were supposed to complete the 16-year plan, but the plan's a lot older than that. Now, I've said before, what you're looking at here is what you saw 100 years ago in Imperial Russia. The Bolshevik Revolution, they want to do that again. You say, but who's they? There was one that really made me laugh the other day. I saw it online. Bill Gates makes something like $108.32 a second. That's how much money he makes per second. So it's literally not worth his time to bend over to pick up a $100 bill, which might take 2 seconds, because he's already made more money than that. When you think Bill Gates is a puppet stooge for people who are so wealthy, they wipe their ass with his bank account. These are your old robber baron families. Rothschilds being the ones that are often held up as the poster boys, and they should be because they've funded both sides of every war since the French Revolution. Real nice fucking fellas right there. They've been joined by the Vanderbilts and the Roosevelts and the Morgans. Just run with it. Okay? There are people who make so much money, money isn't even a thing to them anymore. Money to them is oxygen to you for the most part. They never notice it and they don't care because what they really want is consolidate power. So the whole point of the election, this new election, is to get that final wedge in, to divide the Union, to make that violent split. And I've heard it postulated that we should have, we could have states where Trump's the president, and then we could have states where Biden's the president. No, you can't. See, that's the balkanization of the country. There are people who actually want that. Individual city-states, as it were. It's not the American way. We have literally the best version of a government document on the planet, except nobody follows it and they keep futzing with it and changing it and ignoring it. The biggest problem with the American Constitution is it recognizes you as a sovereign entity and not a servant. That's the biggest problem. And every other form of government on the planet, even you anarchy guys have to understand this, your property. All you are. In America, the way the Constitution was written, you were a sovereign entity who had inalienable rights. Rights given from God that nobody could take away. But you see them pissing on them all the time. So we split the country. Biden declares he's president. He already has, although nobody else has except for the legacy propaganda media. And Trump swears he's still president. Well, Trump is still president until January 20th. That's just the way it works. He might be a lame duck president, but he's still the president of the United States. So what we got up to last night was, even if we don't split the country, which we shouldn't, what happens if, say, Joe Biden, who says he's the president now, has declared himself the president-elect, decides to jump the gun and ask for help because Trump is running a coup. Now, all this should be shook out by December 14th, but that doesn't mean it will be. Biden says Trump's running a coup, he doesn't want to leave office, we have to forcibly remove him. You've seen this already. It's been all over the place. Biden doesn't have the support of the military. Trump has the support of the military. Biden doesn't. The Democrats in general do not. And a lot of the personnel that they had in place for particularly this type of situation have been removed. So what's Biden's next play? Biden goes to the UN and says, we need peacekeeping forces in my country where everyone's armed because we have that pesky annoying Second Amendment. And there's too many people with guns running around and there's a coup going on. So what I need is for you to come in and help me declare my presidential legitimacy. This would be treason, by the way. At no point in time can a sitting president ask a foreign military force, even if it's global multinational, to come into the United States and put on boots on the ground. No, 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 no. Now remember, everyone was melting down because Trump's going to call in the United Nations to break up the gang violence in Chicago. Trump was never going to do that. Trump wants to bring the Marines in. Trump understands posse comitatus and that he's not allowed to. All the proof you need is the fact that he could have mobilized the National Guard at any time had any of those governors who can mobilize the National Guard asked. Didn't. And he never mobilized any federal officers until a federal building was under attack. Is what it is. Even if some of Chicago's local leaders did want UN peacekeeper boots on the ground, then outsiders simply making the request to the UN wouldn't result in an international blue helmet mission there. That is correct. You can't just say, hey, they're being mean to me. UN peacekeeping missions are voted on by the Security Council, which consists of 5 permanent member states: China, France, Russia, the UK, and the US. Joe Biden can literally ask for it. And of the 5 members on there, there are 10 other countries elected to 2-year terms, but we're the 5 permanents. I don't know. What's the odds that Russia, Trump, Russia, and China Biden, France, and the UK all say, okay, we need to step in to quell the political instability in this time of crisis. He has a way in. A major issue facing the United Nations, the United States, and the 111th Congress, this is an older piece, is the extent to which the United Nations has the capacity to restore or keep peace in the changing world environment. Associated with this issue is the expressed need for a reliable source of funding and other resources for peacekeeping and improved efficiencies of operations. For the United States, the major congressional considerations on UN peacekeeping stem from the executive branch commitments made in the UN Security Council. The concern with these commitments made through votes in Council is to the extent in which they bind the United States to fund and participate in some way in an operation. This includes placing U.S. military personnel under the control of foreign commanders. We know Trump doesn't like the UN. We know Trump really doesn't like the WHO. He defunded them. So, would the UN maybe be willing to think, call me crazy here, if we back Biden, we can at least get some of those American dollars back, because without them, it's kicking our ass. You don't think China's floating them, do you? Although China does have a lot of juice with them. Russians have enough of their own problems. The UN Charter was drafted against the backdrop of the disaster of the Versailles Treaty and President Woodrow Wilson's determination to make foreign policy without Congress, according to the precedent set. When he submitted the treaty to the Senate on July 10, 1919, he attached it to the Covenant of the League of Nations. That's the forefather of the United Nations. The covenant provided for an assembly giving each member nation an equal vote and a council consisting of representatives from the U.S., the U.K., France, Italy, Japan, and 4 other nations elected by the assembly. Members pledged to submit to all league disputes threatening war and to use military and economic sanctions against nations that threatened war. We have violent insurrections in my company, and they won't recognize my status as duly elected president. So I could really use you guys to come on over here and help us out. I don't for a second put any of this past them, by the way. Remember, it's not about who's the president. It's about destroying the country. It's really about destroying the Constitution. Because if people outside of the U.S. could actually use our Constitution to rebuild their governmental structures, the world would be a completely different place. This report discusses to what extent and why military personnel and forces from foreign nations are sometimes stationed in the United States. Training. Cooperative training, basically. Sometimes they'll take posts and they'll do education. Upon discovering specific instances for foreign troop presence, some members of the public have expressed concern. In general, however, the presence of such foreign representation on U.S. soil is neither new nor an unusual phenomenon. This report will be updated once a significant new background information becomes available. The great bulk of foreign military personnel in the U.S. are individuals assigned here for specialized training or to fill exchange faculty and staff positions. They can be found on almost all major training installations of all services throughout the U.S. Their duration of presence in the U.S. could range from a few weeks to several years. On occasion, foreign military units participate for a few weeks in combined military exercises on U.S. land or water training ranges. One of the more widely noted being a small Russian unit that trained with U.S. forces at Fort Riley, Kansas in October of '95. A single comprehensive listing of where and why all foreign personnel and units are here would be extensive and is not known to exist. If we go into blue-red, Biden country, Trump country. When you look at a map, when you look at the current political map, the West Coast is completely Biden country and would be more than willing to allow troops in from the UN or a foreign country if Biden asked for it. Now, theoretically, he's supposed to go through Congress, but we won't have a Congress because we'll have two different presidencies. It's split. The red part of the country encompasses pretty much what's next to friggin' Oregon and Washington, like Idaho, out to, I would say Wisconsin and Minnesota, but and then all the way on the east, New York, Vermont, Maine, those places where we touch Canada and the Great Lakes regions. Canada doesn't give a shit. Canada's completely on board with the one world government thing. You see the way Justin Trudeau is. And so for the UN to just roll troops down through there, completely plausible. Nothing to stop them. On the East Coast, once you get below Pennsylvania, it's all red and not going to happen. So you go East Coast down, Florida, up and around the middle of the country. Well, Texas is red. And the next blue state to Texas, New Mexico, has no water. Arizona, same thing. That's Mexico. So California, Arizona, New Mexico, part of Texas. Back up in Mexico. Mexico's not going to play that game, though. Mexico has no interest in getting involved in that kind of thing. We are way too big an economic engine for them. I'll say I don't think Obregon, I think his name is Obregon, I don't think his policies go that way. So you have the West Coast, half the northern border, and the East Coast. Well, you say our military units will repel any invading force. Remember, in blue states, it's not an invading force, and there's no way our military could operate against orders from the people in charge there, the government. So it won't happen. In red states, it will happen, but if you have people deployed into these bases in these red states that are already sympathetic to the cause, Fort Hood, Texas, Taliban or something, he shot all those fucking people up because Clinton decided the military were trained to handle firearms, shouldn't be able to handle firearms on base. Hassan? I think his name was Hassan. And that piece of shit managed to shoot up the friggin' base, killed how many people? Never happened. You're a crazy person. Why I told you this was just for tinfoil hat people. Roll them in through the northeast. Roll them in from the west coast. Roll them in from the northeast coast. And we are completely and totally goat fucked, folks. We literally have a Red Dawn situation. And this country would be torn asunder, which is, of course, the end goal. That's the end goal. After we were done fighting amongst ourselves in the blue helmets, it's easy enough to just roll in, mop up, clean up. Welcome to the New World Order. Anyway, I don't know where we can go with the rest of this. I was just kicking it around. If you got some ideas, got some holes in my plans that I'm not seeing, let me know. You got a better take on this? Was this something I left out? Hit me up. I'm just trying to figure out where we go from here. I don't see us going back to the 50s anytime soon. So, here's what it is. Thanks for coming by and putting some eyeballs on here, folks. I will catch up with you on the next one. Till then, be safe, be happy, and remember, unplug. The fucking machine's off. Stop driving yourself crazy with all this bullshit. Well, propaganda designed to screw with your mental state anyway. Salute.